As-salamu alaykum, Namaste, Sri Akaal, and Khush Amdeed. Welcome back to my channel, Canadian Born Desi. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that is of interest to me, and hopefully it's of interest to you as well. It's something that I've observed over the past couple of years, and it continues to be more and more evident nowadays. And that is the topic of immigration. There are so many Desis that are coming into Canada, and I ask myself, why? Many of you have better lives back home, but for some reason you think that the grass is super green on this side. What I wanted to do was provide you with some questions to think about when you're deciding whether you should move to Canada or not. So I'm going to be touching on about 4 or 5 points, and we'll go into a bit of detail on each one of those points, and then hopefully when you're making your decision to immigrate to Canada or not, hopefully you will consider the factors that I will mention in this video. So let's get started. The first is the education credentials that you bring from your country to this one. Number 2 is the healthcare system in Canada. Number 3, the schools in Canada. Number 4, the cost of living in Canada. And number 5, I want to share with you who I believe this country is advantageous for. So the profile of an individual that would really gain a lot from coming to Canada. So with that being said, you're probably asking what qualifies me to talk on this topic. Well, in fact, I am not an immigrant. I'm born and raised in Canada. However, I have many friends that are immigrants, and I've also met many people, whether I'm driving in an Uber or wherever else, at a Starbucks, wherever I may be. I've met many immigrants that have left their countries to come for a better life in Canada. So I know many of you have probably spoken to friends and family members that happen to be in Canada. For those of you that are abroad, back home in India, Pakistan, or wherever else, and they've probably said positive things about coming to Canada. Oh, life here is great. I have a car, I have a house. I'm going to break that down a little bit for you. I'm going to give you an unbiased view of what I see from a Canadian-born's perspective. The others may try to hype things up. There was this thing back in the day that immigrants that came to Canada, they were always afraid to go back to their homeland because they thought it was a failure. Let's start with the education credentials that some of you may bring from your country to Canada. Many of them are not recognized in Canada. Now there are exceptions, but I'm speaking generally here. And the challenge with that is that you have to take a step down. So for example, if you had a very professional, elegant, respectable position there, you may have to take on something that may not make you feel as happy. And what I mean by that is there are many individuals, and this story you may have heard multiple times, there are doctors, they are engineers, they are business professionals that often find themselves driving a taxi or doing other type of work that they may have not considered doing when they were back home. Now the good thing is everything in Canada is respectable. So that's something to consider. Now, so that's the first thing, your credentials. You need to really look into the fact whether your credentials are going to be valid here, and if you're going to be able to leverage your credentials. Because at the end of the day, it does make a difference on the quality of life that you have. Now, it's not to say that a laborer in Canada doesn't make much money. So for example, if you look at Pakistan or India, the laborers in these countries don't make much money. Right? It's considered a very negative job. But in Canada, that's not how it works. Every job here is respectable and pays a decent sum. But you just may not be doing what you had expected to do. Now, the healthcare system. So how does the healthcare system work in Canada? So to your surprise, you probably think it's amazing, but it's not. Okay? It's not amazing here in Canada. Now, certain parts of Canada may be good, but I'm speaking specifically about the Ontario healthcare system. So here's an example. Let's say my eye is hurting, okay? And I'm having problems with my eye. I cannot go see an eye specialist to resolve my eye problem. I first have to go to a general practitioner, doctor, who is essentially a doctor that looks at just about everything, and they will assess my eye. And then they will determine whether I need to go see a specialist or not. So they may simply say, oh, try this cream and come back in a few days or a few weeks. And if it doesn't work, then we can refer you to a specialist. So now, in order to see an eye expert, I'm at the mercy of this general practitioner. And the reality is some general practitioners may decide to refer you right away to an eye specialist. And others may want to try a few different solutions themselves before referring you to a specialist. Our hospitals are absolutely at capacity. So if you're going to the hospital, unless you're literally on your deathbed, you're not going to get looked at for several hours. The wait times at hospitals in Ontario are approximately, I want to say, as high as 8 hours. In other parts of the world, like India, Pakistan, you can, if you do have the funds, you can pay somebody to see you right away. It doesn't quite work like that here in Ontario. So something to consider. The system here is not what you may imagine. So I suggest you do look into it if you have, let's say, for example, children that aren't well all the time. I believe we're number 3 now, the school system. So the school systems, I would say, are pretty good. In terms of junior school, high school, it's free. It doesn't cost you any money. I mean, there are private options, but I would say the public school system is good enough. And then once you get to university, of course, it costs thousands of dollars to put somebody through university or college. And that's another story. Most universities and schools have different price points. And generally speaking, I would say that, they all do provide a good level of education here in Ontario. So from that point of view, I think most likely, if you are coming specifically for university or college or for education, I do believe it makes sense. The last is the cost of living. So you look on TV and you see, wow, look at their house in Canada. Look at everything they own in Canada. Oh my God, they're living such a good lifestyle. Check out their car, those clothes. Look at all these trips they're making. So one thing you probably don't realize is all that is being done predominantly, for most people, is being done on debt, right? They're using debt to finance their lavish lifestyle. In Canada, most of us don't own our homes. Somebody told me that they like to tell people abroad that they don't own their house. It's actually a partnership with the bank. And that's how most things work here. It's a partnership with the bank or the company that's lent you the money, and so on and so forth. So a good percentage of Canadians don't own their cars. They've borrowed money to buy it, and now they're paying that debt off. Houses, same thing. Vacations, even same thing. So to be honest, although from the outside it looks great, inside the finances don't look so great. So don't believe everything you see on TV or everything your Canadian friends tell you. If you are in Pakistan, if you are in India, if you are in Nepal, if you're in Bangladesh, if you're in Sri Lanka, if you're a Desi in South Asia and you have a great lifestyle, and what I mean by that is you have servants, you have somebody that's at the gate making sure that they can open the door so your cars can come in, I would strongly recommend that you reconsider or just dive a little bit deeper in wanting to come to Canada. Just think about it a little bit. Come here, live here for a bit, see if it makes sense, and then you can make a decision. Because I believe that the quality of your lifestyle will probably be better in South Asia. Yes, there's more security in Canada, but nothing is free. There's always trade-offs. So you need to see what is best for you. Canada would be ideal for somebody, an elder individual who is sick all the time. Because once you are a Canadian citizen, you can really take advantage of the healthcare system by getting the treatments that you need and at no cost. So if you're a low to middle income family, I think there are some benefits to coming to Canada. Like I said, what Canada really does is puts everybody in a playing field that's somewhat equal. I always say that, when it comes to Canada, everybody's within this range, right? There's very few people that are above here and very few people that are low. Of course, I'm generalizing, but with that being said, those are the type of people that I think would benefit from coming to Canada. Low to middle income and elderly, sick individuals. So with that being said, that's just a bit of light on my thoughts, an unbiased view. Like I said, I'm a Canadian-born Desi, and I'm giving you, I'm around immigrants all the time. I mean, there's some that live on my street. There's others that I work with. There's others that I see on a regular basis. And they tell me their hardships. They share with me, which they probably may not share with their relatives back home or their friends back home. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's different than my regular material. So looking forward to your feedback. As-salamu alaykum. Namaste. Sri Akaal.